Hello, today we're going to go over a few things into the end well, as far back as we can go to the pre-flood area. I think these things need to be brought out immediately. I think it's really way too late in the season in the game, actually, for people to realize that the only way to be safe and all of these disasters are coming. And you wouldn't believe how much you feel safe and how much you don't even worry and you feel great inside. That if you just accept Joshua, that's the way to be free of these things that I'm about to show you. I'm not going to get too far into trying to preach it. You're going to let you try to figure things out for yourself, because, that's how I had to do it. And even though I might be able to plant the seed, I can't tell you what to think. I shouldn't tell you what to think. And that's part of the gift that God has given us from the very beginning, is the free will, and we wouldn't be able to sit here and converse about such things right now. But anyway, let's go to the original part of when man first was created, and from there on out, I'm going to give you a little of the pre-existing time, which involves Satanic, the first fallen angel. And then we're going to have talk about the other angels that came down later on that Enoch of the Bible talks about, which, if you invest your time to read the book of Enoch, you will find these things to be spiritually enlightening. And not only that, it can help lead you to Yahweh and Joshua, but it just really fills in all the blanks in our life. And you realize that these aliens that they're about to try to present to you after this big disaster that's coming, and all these other little disasters, and believe me, it'll just keep getting worse, because this is now the beginning of the time of the tribulation that God speaks of in Revelation. The book of John talks about it. The book of Daniel talks about it a lot. The book of Ezekiel, and of course the book of Enoch. And that these aliens are actually called watchers by Enoch, and that there are two different classifications of the fallen angels. There's the head fallen angels, and then there's the Igigi lower servants. Now, these were biotech servants that were created by the fallen angels, believe it or not, once they learned that they were going to lose their powers and not be forgiven by God. So therefore, they hatched a plan to get back at God, not even realizing that they were just basically carrying out Satanel's plans. So Azazel, who was the next head fallen angel, is supposed to return in the next generation, is what I was going to say. Even though we got cut on the last one, for some reason it got all messed up and muted by the computer saying weird things, and almost kind of like it was somebody trying to interfere. But anyway, what I was trying to say is he's supposed to come back in this next generation, and then after the 70 generations, the punishment that Enoch talks about. So I hope you enjoy what we have. Thank you very much. In the beginning of time, as we know it, there was no concept of time in the beginning. Yahweh, or Erevath, as the Greeks knew him, had created the universe, the galaxies, the solar systems, out of the energies of himself, actually, and brought the visible out of the invisible. It was called Barbello and Adoro. Anyway, as time went on, after the systems had been fully put together, there was this galaxy that we know as the Milky Way galaxy, and there was also the solar system. God had created the light thereof, and created a great light to not only just light up the earth eventually, but the heavens, where he also presided, and the ruling elite, I guess, other than God, who were below him, of course, called the Sanhedrin. They were the top angels or archangels. And there was Lucifer, a special angel, who was very powerful, called the Morning Star. Well, he got it, power went to his head somewhat, and the angels, at least 1/3 of them, had fell from heavens. During the whole span of time, as we know it, we're not sure if that's the whole number, or if just the angels that fell at that time. Of course, they were cursed to a grotesque form, a horrible ugliness. Some people say it looks like the reptiles, which we know Satan to be like. He's called the Great Dragon. He's called the Serpent. Some people said he appeared as the lizard man before he had to be cursed to his belly. So God created the oceans, He created the land, He created the firmament, He created the cloud, everything on it, the nice vegetation, the trees, everything organic. He had the ocean already, of course. And then He created great sea creatures. He created dinosaurs, and they did exist a long time ago. And it wasn't millions of years like the scientists have been telling you for a while. There's been a plan in this for a while, especially with the evolution history that they teach in the schools. We've been misguided. They've shown false bones for Neanderthals, put them together and say, this is Neanderthal man, and he was before man. That's all a bunch of bull people. It was a separate thing altogether, and they weren't anything like that. Anyway, so as we see that Satan had dominion, well, the Garden of Eden, as you had seen, was created. Adam and Eve were the first man and woman. She had been seduced, of course, with the tree of knowledge that she'd seen. Exactly what type of fruit did they take? Well, we believe it to be knowledge, and we know it to be such. Yahweh is very, very, let's say, giving with information. Once you get close to Him, seeing this, the heavens knew that Satan and mankind was punished, and that Satan was to be cursed in his belly after God had walked through the cool of the garden and asked Adam what he had done. Of course, Adam wanted to say it was Eve's fault at first, but they both sinned. That's what it comes down to, right off the bat. So Satan was struck to a snake form where he did not have legs. Now, whether he could have wings, he was never cursed for that. So it's very possible he has wings, and I believe him to have wings, very much so as the Bible describes. So Adam and Eve were kicked out of the garden because of this. And there was an angel put at the head of the garden, and he guarded the garden. Angel Michael, who is the protector of the earth, is one of these angels that has to guard the earth. And they were to guard the four corners of the earth. Well, soon God told the rest of His court, He told a certain amount of angels, which were at least 200. And He told them that He needed them to go down and teach craft to mankind. One in particular named Azazel, as you just see, who became fallen quite quickly, who was also named Igigi through the Sumerian text as we know it, was also to seduce mankind with great knowledge. Not only that, the son Yaza, another fallen angel, head leader of this top angels, who agreed and made a pact to come down upon the earth and keep it secret amongst themselves, according to the book of Enoch. And so we see that they put kingship on the earth at first. Well, yes, they did, in the manner that man wanted to have power, and so therefore they gave so much power to them. But they played gods themselves. That's what it comes down to. And they will try to do it again. Well, of course, they were stricken to a grotesque form. That's why you see so many reptile creatures using all the old drawings and all the old sketches and heliographs, all kinds of cuneiform text, which means it. Well, they had promised great knowledge, and they went very advanced, so much more advanced than we are today. They also claimed that they had made man, which they did not. They were good at DNA manipulation. Believe me, that's what they rely on. Man had even went to moon from the teachings that the Anunnaki had given them, and this is from, they are called that because it's called the sons of Anu, not those who came from above, as ancient aliens would love for you to believe. Eric von Donigan, by the way, is a top 3-level Mason for the Vatican. And he is working for the History Channel, of course, which is ran by the main media, which is in a totally another planet which we'll get to, run by NASA. Winky, keeping himself also under many different disguises, would pass down kingship and lordship, even though after being punished, he would see the murder of his own sons, he was told, by Yahweh, who also told Enlil. Now, Enlil, we must understand, even though he was also considered an Anunnaki and fallen angel in the Sumerian times, and a head one at that, he was actually supposed to be at least the same rival of Enki, if not more powerful. Which Enki, in all of his writings, you'll see where he he tells people, oh yeah, Enlil, he's in charge, and then he'll say that he's not later on in a totally different script, claiming power for himself. He praises himself overly, so that's a sign of a devil there. And he keeps changing new things, and you'll see out on the main, what the public can get anyway, that Enki is the one that's talked about the most, and you hardly find any texts within the line. Well, believe me, if you look hard enough, you can find them, and I've found many which prove him to be the angel Michael. So we go into the Akkadian times, and we see that there would be a beheading here, showing that somebody was to get their head cut off, somebody an angel. Well, maybe that's Angel Michael, who's usually the one that has to crush their head or take them down. So then we go into the day Enki went and told people his son Marduk, and in the Enuma Elish the Akkadians used heavily and believed in the creation myth, that being the creation myth and the flood myth, and that Enki having to pay for his sins where he passed down, and then they had that's why so many of the Nephilim, which were the sons of them, they were also praised as gods, were praised so highly in the mighty men of renown, as Genesis says. Gilgamesh, you've seen him a while back there. So you see there's this great disorder in all this. It was a new world order plan. It was actually called Enki in the world order, and many people do not even know about that. So we must realize these things to be truths, and that they're well hidden. If you look far, you'll see it. You'll be able to compare texts even and find truth. So we see that later throughout time after that, there was great devastations, like Sodom and Gomorrah and everything else. And people wonder, well, how this city was destroyed, this city was destroyed, this city, that was God destroying them because of their evil, Baal gods, who was another name for Enki, believe it or not, in his lineage. And Marduk, his son, remember that they had to watch their sons be murdered off. So we see these fallen angels, who are bound, which I forgot to mention again, which we should talk about a little bit more for 70 generations. They are to be released eventually here soon. God had to clean the earth because of these horrible things that these angels had done, teaching man pedophilia, incest, prostitution, warcraft, the beautifying of the eyelids, and so forth. It just goes on and on and on. So you see that more fell, and they were to be bound for 70 generations. Now, during these 70 generations, they are in the darkest depths of the earth. We know that they also still have the influence over the Igigi gray aliens, and which were the biotech servants, or lower servants. And Enoch talks about them an awful lot also. They're also known as the lesser gods in the Sumerian times. Of course, the Anunnaki, that's the reason why they have depictions of them as being human-like, but then you see little gray, weird-looking creatures too. That, it explains it all. And then the other human-like figures that got two faces. If you notice, the other face is always very ugly, grotesque, or lizard-like looking. Notice that. I promise that. Look them through and you will find it. Put these stuff together, guys. Find this truth for yourself. Now, Enki, being who he was, being bound and everything, Satan would have to kick in a little bit more. He had to visit the Mayans and start them off after the flood. As you remember, after the flood, everything just slowly started rising again. And there was so much knowledge that spread at first because Noah's families, it was Sadra, that the Sumerians known as, were the only ones that passed this knowledge, you see, that is so told wrong, like people like Eric von Däniken. So, if people aren't a little bit more, just don't, these are the people we should be aware of the most, is the media, because they are going to try to totally, smooth everything. They're being paid off, most of them being ruled by the ruling elite, you have the ancient aliens telling you that this type of stuff had to be aliens that did this. So, well, yeah, they were in a sense, that they're not of the earth. But they don't hardly ever talk about the fallen angels. They don't say the fallen angels. In some of the episodes they do, but then they don't want to talk about it anymore. They'll stay off that subject and always try to make the creatures sound weird and everything. But anyway, this knowledge, remember, was passed back down to mankind, and even though the Nephilim, who built the pyramids, which are actually power plants and energy plants to spread in different ways, they're the ones that actually built that view. And a lot of the temples, the Nephilim in different areas built them. The red-headed, white-looking McDonald giants at the time era. So mankind, gets tricked again, even through Mayan civilization. And, Satan being the feathered servant, Quetzalcoatl, which everyone is waiting for in 2012. Everybody should be very aware of that. So, let's get back to the Akkadian times. The Akkadians just take the same stories, Sumerian stories, and just give it in a totally different way. And, just change some names, add a little bit more to the story, or slightly change it a little bit. That's how you find out it's all bullcrap, usually. It doesn't match the original story you just gave earlier. So it's just ridiculous, actually. So a lot of these texts, the true texts would reveal these. The texts that really bust the other ones and bust out Inky, the Freemasons are hiding, of course. So anyway, so we go through the Babylonian times. We're just now finding all this stuff. Even though a lot of stuff's been found throughout the past century, actually. And they're going to try to make all this just UFOized, and they talk about the Nazgulons and how great, this clock is that we know, or whatever they want to call it in Stonehenge. Different, ideas on that. Mankind, though, after so much time, had to have certain prophets warn people of things and tell people of the coming of Christ, eventually. Well, when certain angels busted these people out, like I said, in these times, these cities we were talking about being destroyed earlier, that we know of, that we can highly prove of, like Sodom and Gomorrah, was during the Akkadian times, and need to clarify that for you. Anyway, so there are angels watching all these people, and they will make contact with the ones that get closest to him. And he gives borrowed power, but you must be humble in spirit at all times. And realize what God really did for you. You have to internalize all this. Think about how much time you spend on the computer today, the TV, everything else. How much we are being tricked. Don't you feel like a fool, really? I did. I know I did. I'll admit it straight out, And I had a rough life that really I was mad at God sometimes because it's such a hard life, being shot, this and that, and having a very poor life, and an abusive father. All kinds of horrible things, which were much worse, actually. I'm not even going to mention. We're not going to get into it. So let's go to after when Jesus is said, even predicted to come at a time. He comes and dies and goes through so much to bear your sin. Of course, mankind, being who they are, even after his death, and they'll keep going the way they are. And they're during the Mayan times, of course. That stretched clear over into the AD, way over, and what we know of is 300. Well, the Mayan civilizations, some of the temples go way further back, and that's because of Satan having such a high influence. Even so much that it got bad, even in the early part of the millennium, in the Dark Ages, where the Vatican took off. And guess what? Certain members got in there, and eventually that were not in looking out for God's best interest, in no means, or Christ's, and his death. And they manipulated the church and ruined a lot of things. So we must keep these things in mind, and don't try to sugarcoat it and say, I want to believe it's happening this way. Well, it's not. So people need to really wake up to this. So after the medieval times, we get into the industrial age. And, of course, the New World Order being strong, throughout the millennia, a lot of people, we didn't have the intelligence we did and the mass ways of sharing communication. So it took a while for people to figure things out. And for Freemasonry to kind of go back under a little bit. But there were certain good members who were not part of Luciferian plan. But so we get into after the industrial age, and when we get in our century, we go right before Hitler and stuff, finding the Nephilim bodies, skeletons and such. We realize that that vampirism and all these occult practices had already been taking place in the Dark Ages. And the witchcraft things, some of them were true and some of them weren't. But there were some of them that really were. And that, when America being strong like it thinks it is, and when it built its constitution and everything, that these Freemasons in there, some of them went bad and some of them were still good on the good side. But the evil intent has always been in there, because I forgot to tell you about a Sumerian text called Igigi of the world in the world order. No, actually, I didn't forget. I just barely mentioned it. Igigi and the ordering of the world, or some people call it Igigi and the world order. And there's many Sumerian texts. Ninki and her song. There's the Dil Moon text. There's all kinds of good stuff. So, America stealing the land from the Indians. Some of them were bad, God. I mean, some of them were really pagan and cutting each other up, killing each other, cannibalism, just evil. Some of them were really good tribes, though. It doesn't, just because we're trying to do God's work doesn't mean we have the right to just take things in our own hands. God's plan comes about no matter what, people. So, just, we know that. So we come up to Hitler's times, of course, and the Great Holocaust, the Jews, God's people, Israel. And some people, we come through the time of where false flags start becoming popular. We have the Titanic, or not Titanic, sorry, Pearl Harbor and such. Titanic's a lesson by God. Actually, it should be that was to wake us up, people, and it didn't work, did it? So if you don't think the calamities are going to hit hard right now, well, I know they are. But you're free to think what you want. So Hitler even was looking for all this great knowledge in the tombs of Ur and Pharaoh, as you've seen a couple in the Egyptian temples he went into. He excavated in a lot of places. After Hitler, though, after trying to build a master race for the Aryans, and he did meet gray aliens, and got a lot of technology from, gray fallen ones, I should call them. I shouldn't even call them aliens, because they've screwed it up. The people that they say alien, they don't clarify it. If they would clarify, it'd be alright. But they don't. Then we get into our times, of course, with New York being the way it is. Some people believe in a lot of our symbolism to be purely Illuminati Freemasonry. I believe it to be so. I know it to be so. It's plastered everywhere, people, and they throw it out there in front of our face more and more every day. And they feel safer to do certain things, too. Like giving pagan signs to us, the president and the president's wives and people's head politicians, head rulers, leaders, bankers, blah, blah, blah. These people, come on, and we're voting these people in. Well, guess what? Your vote don't count anyway. I'll tell you about the Bilderburg group, and we'll get into that. They do have that, and a lot of these are really elite. They pray to a god called Moloch, and there's the owl god, and they do sacrifices and rituals, and little conventions in California, and they call them. I can't remember. It's a Bilderburg convention, but it's in. I can't remember exactly where it's at. And I used to know that. So we get into conspiracies now, and there shouldn't be called conspiracies. It should be called truths, and they should be called conspiracies. Conspiring, But anyway, with George Bush, yes, they are from the reptilian family. The line, the DNA. That's how they're reptilian. It's because they're holding the Nephilim DNA and. The strong Nephilim DNA. And remember, they got cursed too. And they turned into lizard people. The only difference was they didn't get turned into snakes. They didn't lose their legs. Because once they got punished, they pretty much turned into snakes, Even though they're still trying to do their evil, wicked things, they didn't get punished like Satan, though. Because Satan, he would just take it to extremes. And God just had enough of him already off the bat. So then we have these terrorist suspects. We get back to the false flags and the plans of the New World Order. You actually think that they terrorists that could verify planes, and we have the best pilots in the world we have today can't recommend directly into targets that destroyed exactly the records that revealed what government truths are out there, and that's they had to get rid of some of those, which were a lot of them were financial. But there's a greater plan than that all. False flag to get over in the Middle East and take over the temples of Earth. If you read one of the texts, it talks about how we keep invading the world. So then we have our Hollywood people. And, People like Beyonce and Jay-Z, who are Satanists, by the way. Katy Perry's a Satanist, by the way. Roseanne Barr is a Satanist. I have a clip, actually. I'm not even going to bother showing on here. You can find it. Believe me, it's not hard to find. Where she openly tells people she sold her soul to the devil. All these nice little, great, celebrities. Well, also, we're intelligent gathering time. Beware of Facebook and places like that. There's all kinds of things. They got ways of keeping tabs on you. So they can create this great, totally disillusioned people. If they knew the truth, they wouldn't be taking part in it. And eventually getting ready and preparing for the war with God. They know it's going to be tough because God's already claimed himself the victor, and he is the victor. Christ was the victor when he pulled the keys out of hell. That should tell everybody there that he's the winner. He's got control over the keys over everything, and he's God now. Well, he was God in the first place. He's God in flesh body. But we are to recognize Jesus Christ because of this sacrifice where he shed his blood for us. And God's never been for any type of sacrifice. And you say, oh, the Old Testament. Well, guess what? A lot of it's been manipulated during the King James time, which I didn't get to talk about a lot during the Dark Ages. But look it up. He did pay scribes, and they changed certain little things, and Freemason things that were being done. Anyway, we're in our end age now. The earth is going to go through so much crap. I'll just put it that way. All kinds of horribleness. Would the Nephilim really come back to the New Order plan? Yes. The Nephilim are already here. They're the evil spirits floating about and doing horrible, wicked things. These ghosts that you know of, or these people they pray to throughout the century. But the actual Anunnaki fallen angels were to be released 70 generations, and from the time that I've added up, which was 5,500 years that Enoch talks about before Christ comes, and then our time added to it, that's 70 generations, people. 2000 now, 2080. So we have Obama in our office now, who's running it quite horrible, I might add. And he's set in their own place. And I was talking about your vote not counting, and I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. By no means. These people were picked way ahead of time. 10 years at least, they said. They knew it. And they knew that before George Bush got voted in. Why do you think that whole debauchery over, I can't remember who he was running against, but in those Florida votes, miscount. Come on, he lost, and that's the way it was. And they were like, oh no, we can't have this. We have to say this and then this to get him in there so it looks real. So people put it together, please. Don't fall for this, and don't fall for this higher spiritualism they're trying to teach us now. And that, it's very well a possibility that Obama is a resurrected DNA form or something or another. He just appeared out of nowhere. Everybody wanted the best. They dreamed for the best. But guess what, people? We were fooled. A lot of people believe him to be the Antichrist. I don't know about that, but we'll see. We have the false prophet to worry about too. And Christ is coming back, and he's not going to be no little wimp. He, the way everybody thinks of him doing the peaceful thing, well, yes, he can have a super peaceful side. He's a God of love. He's also a God of wrath. Now that he's off the earth, and he doesn't have to worry about it saying too much where somebody's going to stab him before he gets his message out. Because remember, he was in a mortal body, and he would die either way if he's in a mortal body. Christ did horrible, he went through horrible things that we can't even think of. You sit down and take the time and read the Bible, people, and change your diet. You put junk in, junk comes back out. It's that simple. The closer you get something, the more you know about it. A lot more. But people, I want you to know, though, I really do wish the best for all of you, and I'm glad you got to listen to my video, and I hope I explained something. Remember to read the first book of Enoch, not the second one, The Secrets of Enoch, which was written anywhere from 380 to 300 BC. That could have been easily manipulated. So the best version you get is the first one, the Ethiopian. People, I want you to have a good, be a safe time out there. Look to God always. Remember to pray to Yahshua, Christ, save you from these horrible fallen angels. And God be with you all. And I pray for the people out there to accept Yahshua. He's the only way. And remember, the closer you get to God, The sooner that you get out of this horrible parts of the tribulation, the sooner you will get out of the worst end of it. God bless you all out there. Christ be with you. Thank you.